What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video, and in this one, I'm going to be talking about the one and only Tesla stock and what you should be looking out for the future. I'm also going to break down why tomorrow is going to be a crazy day for the stock market in Tesla because we have PPI data coming out in the morning with initial jobless claims data as well. And also, we have some big earnings, not to mention some crazy pieces of manipulation that are likely going to occur because of market makers and big bears out there. So I do believe it's going to be wild, specifically tomorrow and also Friday. I'm going to break down how this could end up affecting Tesla's share price. Now, before I break anything down about it, before I get into any more details, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Make sure you take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire Tesla community as a whole. And the last things, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you're guaranteed up to 12 free stocks, each valued at up to $3,000. And the best part is, any could be a free Tesla share. It's a limited time offer. The offer ends in just 13 days. Make sure you check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. So Tesla was up about 2.38% for the day for today. And we had a very nice push at the end of the day. My prediction from yesterday was Tesla would try to fight for this 214 to 215 resistance. We would try to fight it, and I thought it was unlikely we would actually break it. And that is what almost exactly ended up happening. We came very close. We tried and tried, and we ended up coming just short. So the real question is, what's going to happen tomorrow now that this ended up happening? Could Tesla continue to break out, or is it going to end up failing? And that, in my opinion, is going to be very dependent on the data, maybe the news as well, but more towards the data and the manipulation we're about to see. So now I'm going to break that down in just a couple of minutes, but I want to break down some other information about Tesla that also came out. Now, Tesla has some news that's not the best. I do consider this pretty mixed at the same time. Tesla is going to partly shut down Giga Shanghai for upgrades, likely for the new Model 3. Now, all they're doing is basically updating their facilities and actually updating their production systems for the new Model 3 production lines. That's going to be awesome for the future because they're going to be including the new versions of the Model 3 during production. But at the same time, there is some worry amongst investors that this could slow down their numbers, especially because in China right now, there is a lot of signs of lowering demand for the time being. But on top of that, we have lots of good news that also came out. Elon Musk just opened up about the Tesla charging network. And actually, he didn't just open up about it. I mean, he just opened up in response to the things that the new policymakers did end up insinuating. But he did mention this in the past as well, right? And that's basically the fact that Tesla's open to allowing different EVs, different companies to use their charging network. This is massive bullish news for the long term future because it's going to help their revenue boost going forward. It's also going to make people a lot more open into going to their facilities, buying into Teslas, and actually learning more about what else the company could do. I think this is very awesome. It also helps their brand, and I consider this very bullish news. Now, on top of that, there are other big benefits for Tesla as a company, such as the fact that I believe that they're now going to be making deals with the White House, and that in turn is going to help the company going forward. Now, I also want to mention the fact that with the new charging network, this is actually going to increase their ties once again with the White House. And I don't want to look at that in a good or bad light because as long as they're working together in good faith, more work could get done. Now that Tesla's actually open to this and they actually closed the deal, this, in my opinion, is going to be awesome. Now, I also want to note that Charlie Munger says that BYD is so far ahead of Tesla in China, it's almost ridiculous. In my opinion, different people have their different biases. That's completely fine, right? People can have different opinions as others. That's fine. I just want to note that different investors that may be investing in completely different companies, it's very easy for them to compare and contrast these companies and have their own opinions. And who knows, he can make some good points. But the bottom line is, we don't have to solely focus on comparing Tesla to NIO or Tesla to BYD or anything like that. What we should be doing is looking at what Tesla is doing as a company, how are they improving, and how may this end up affecting the share price? Because from what I'm seeing, it doesn't matter how much ahead or how much behind Tesla's rivals are. In my opinion, what's very big to me is how is Tesla's revenue looking? How are their margins? How is their production line? All these things are still amazing. And when we consider them, Tesla, in my opinion, still has a very bright future. And I think that even for this year, they could still beat on a lot of earnings based off the plans that Elon Musk and Tesla have been making. Now, Elon Musk also donated about $1.95 billion in Tesla shares last year. Very kind of him. There were articles saying that he did this for tax purposes. That could be true too, but at the end of the day, he is putting his money where his mouth is. He's still working very hard. I just want to give Elon Musk some appreciation. I think that he is often trivialized by the media, and we should just at least remember what he has done throughout his life, right? I still appreciate Elon Musk big time. When it comes to the new Model Y inventory levels, I just want to note that they're still continuing to come down, showing signs of increased demand for Teslas amidst all of the price cuts. That's once again awesome for Tesla. For earnings for tomorrow, before the market opens, we have Datadog, we have Crocs, we have Paramount, and a couple of other big ones. After the close, we have Redfin, we also have DoorDash, we have Shockwave, we have a lot of big companies for tomorrow. And then the reason why I mentioned tomorrow is going to be a crazy day for the stock market is also because of the data coming out at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, an hour before the market opens. All right, we have PPI data coming out. The consensus is a 0.4% increase. This will affect how the market moves. That's going to be month over month. For core PPI, it's at about a 0.3% increase. That's what the consensus is. We also have initial jobless claims. We want 200,000 of these claims, which would show some weakness in the labor market, which is so far very, very strong. Now, the market really wants to see these differences. It will affect so many different factors. And we also have a lot of Fed speakers later on as the day goes on. We have Bullard, and he tends to be quite hawkish. We also have Cook and Mester and a bunch of other ones. So we have so much going on for tomorrow. I just want to note to everyone, okay? That even though there's all this data and even though this does technically affect the markets big time, the way the market moves in response to this is not ever guaranteed. Meaning that just because CPI is low or PPI is low, it does not mean the market has to rally. Just because CPI or PPI are high, right, that does not mean the market has to fall. It does not always happen that way because of manipulation in the markets. And this is often going to be used as an excuse for the market makers and the big institutions to really pull off their little games. Now, what am I seeing right now? Just as a reminder, PPI is just like CPI, except from the producer side, and the market makers are incentivized to hold the market up. That's what they've been doing for the whole week. And what's very interesting is when you watch the algos, what's happening is the algos are set to buy, meaning that you have some big bears at the top. They're trying to sell and sell and sell and drag the market down. And then all of a sudden, yes, maybe retail is playing somewhat of a degree, but at the same time, we're seeing copious amounts of buying from the market makers and the algorithms. They're just continuing to buy and buy and buy, and they're causing pain for the shorts. We have heavy shorting going on for Friday specifically. There are over 3 million puts out of the money, and they're trying to cause as much pain as possible, while at the same time, the bears are trying to drag the market down. So that's why the market is just going back and forth and back and forth. And we are seeing many instances where the market's pushing up. It's because of this war between the bears and the bulls, the market makers and other institutions. It's a big battle. It's still going on to this day, and I do expect it to continue. Now, for tomorrow, though, the real question is who's going to come out on top. It's very difficult to predict with all the data coming out, and that's why we have to be prepared for anything. But the odds are favoring that the market is going to likely try to hold the levels or very close to the levels it's in. And I want to break that down in more details in just a few minutes. Looking at Tesla, the volume is actually decreasing a bit. It's actually below average for the day, but we still managed to close up about 2%, which means that those who are going long, those who are just buying into like calls and trying to push the share price up, buying lots of shares, they're actually getting an even bigger edge of the stock because even with less volume, it still is managing to hold and push up. We had a very nice push up during part of today. the short volume percentage, in my opinion, has been relatively high on Tesla. I do believe this is going to decrease just a little bit because, once again, the shorts piling in, if they keep piling in, they could end up getting squeezed as the share price continues to push. That is if it does continue. Now, on top of that, I want to note that the data is telling us that Barclays, another very important analyst, is very bullish on Tesla. They're saying it's going to outperform the overall market. They just came out with this report and this rating yesterday. Once again, another good sign, especially after some major investors invest into Tesla, bought a lot more shares last quarter. That's making people very excited. Warren Buffett from Berkshire Hathaway also bought more into Apple, not Tesla, but Apple. And seeing all these investors just continuing to pour in based off their filing reports is causing the market to also push up a bit. That is because more buyers are becoming more confident, more happy to see big investors coming. And I do believe that this is leading to a bit of a trend. There is still some momentum remaining. Tesla's green about 47% of the time on Thursdays. So just note that we tend to not have the strongest Thursdays, and February's in itself tend to not be the strongest, especially during the second half. Tesla does have a tendency of starting off slow, just like today. It was very slow in the beginning, but then all of a sudden, the buyers came in throughout the third through sixth hours, and then Tesla started to really push going into the close. I also want to note that the short interest has been decreasing pretty hard. I do believe this is going to increase a little bit once the data comes out, but it has been decreasing a bit because Tesla is seeing a short squeeze. This has been continuing, but like I said before, we are seeing some more shorts beginning to pile in. So I do believe the short interest is going to start increasing a little bit over time, maybe going more into like next week. Now, for Tesla, what am I seeing right now? What is going on with the Tesla share price? First, we have to talk about SPY and how this could affect us because SPY is going crazy right now. It is very difficult to predict. This thing has just been going back and back and forth as we are seeing a lot of buyers stepping in. I also can't promise anything, and I can't say anything with as much confidence as before because it's going to be dependent on data and the level of manipulation coming out, right? If they end up seeing lots of buyers stepping in, if they keep trying to squeeze the markets, we could see an attempt to try to push up again. But at the same time, the sellers might come in harder. My guess is we do have a potentially bullish setup right here on SPY. We are seeing this thing respecting an uptrend, and we did actually get rejected off this trend line. So I believe SPY is going to keep trying. It's going to keep trying to fight. And we might see a small push up above this area, trying to get to this 415 to 416 area, and then we might fail afterwards. Remember how crazy CPI was. Remember how the market was just, I think if we just like gapped down, then we had a big rally, then we came down, then we rallied again all in one day. We might see something like that tomorrow, where we go back and forth and back and forth. Max Payne is actually at about 413, so we might close very close to where we are, a very flat day. I think that's going to happen again. I just don't know how much higher or how much lower we're going to be. My gut is telling me we're going to be a little bit lower, so I do believe the market is going to see a small push up, then come all the way back down. It's about 410 or so, a bit of a drop, then come right back up and just trade sideways. But it's going to be very violent, and we are going to see a very big move. I don't know if the first push up is going to be that crazy or not. It might be pretty significant before we come back down. But overall, I do think we're going to close very close to where we are as of right now. Now, at the same time, that is just my 2 cents about this. If the bears come in very hard, you have to watch 412, 410, 408, then 405 on SPY. If the bulls end up winning, then SPY could go all the way up to about 416. After that, there is some room around 418. It could go either way, like I said, but I do believe it's going to be very volatile, and I do think we're going to end up getting a very flat close. That's just my 2 cents once again. For Microsoft, we do have a gap above here. I don't know if we're going to fill this gap first before we do continue to come down, or if we're going to come down starting tomorrow. It could be either way depending on manipulation in the data. Microsoft, however, I do believe it is ultimately going to come down to this gap fill by, I would say, within a week to week and a half from now. I am seeing that being very likely. For Apple, Apple was very strong today after the news involving Warren Buffett and also the new potential product Apple could be working on. I think Apple has been doing very well very, very nice push. It looks very strong, and there wasn't really much sign of weakness right here. From a technical standpoint, it looks bullish. It really does look bullish, but no promises could be made because of manipulation in the data. I want to make that very clear. If we're bullish on Apple, watch for 157. If we're bearish, it could come all the way down to 152, then 150. What do I think is going to happen? I think we're going to get a mix of two. I think we're going to see a nice push up, either like directly in the morning or maybe a little after. Then we're going to likely come all the way back down to the lower 150s and come all the way up very close to our close, maybe for a slight red day, but I don't think it's going to be that bad. For the QQQ, this thing is also trying to push and has a very bullish looking setup. It's going to try to get to about 311, maybe getting dragged up by Tesla and Apple, then maybe getting a potential rejection and coming right back down, maybe getting a somewhat flat close. For the VIX, I just want to note the VIX is down pretty hard. And this is actually very unusual because the VIX does have a tendency of continuing to push up when it gets those breaks to the upside. So this is the result of lots of manipulation in the stock market. We do have a potential falling wedge-like pattern. So the VIX might get a breakout soon. I don't know if it's going to start tomorrow or Friday, but I do believe there is a possibility that this could lead to a little bit more downside. That's why I do believe we're going to get a somewhat flat close, maybe a little bit more on the red, but it once again depends on data and manipulation. The market is very unusual because the dollar is breaking out. The market should technically be tanking right now because the dollar is breaking out. And also the bonds, we're seeing the yields, they're actually pricing in a more hawkish Fed. And when they start pushing up the way they are right now, the market should technically not be valued this high. That's why I don't fully trust this rally. I don't have 100% trust in it. That does not mean we're going to crash tomorrow, but what it does mean is that there's the rally that's continuing is because of manipulation. It's really that simple. It's not really natural. A lot of this price action is just lots of market maker manipulation. Now for Tesla, what am I seeing? All right, to end the video, I'm going to just talk about Tesla. Tesla's in a very strange place because yes, we have this very strong setup. It looks like it wants to keep going, but there's not much it could really do from here unless it breaks this 415 area. So if you're bullish, if there's a lot of good news that comes out, Tesla needs to break this 214 to 215 area, right? If we break it, you have to watch 220. If it breaks that, if it breaks 220, it's going to fly, in my opinion, to 225, maybe like 224 to 225. That's where the 200 the 200 moving averages, sorry about that, the 200 moving averages right there on the daily, that's where it's going to be, around that 224 to 225 area. Now, if you're bearish, if there's bad news that comes out and the market starts tanking, first you have to watch for 209. All right. If it breaks below 209, then you have to watch 205. If it breaks below that, then there's this 199 to 200 area. If it fails right there, then we have the 190s all the way down to like 193, then 189. But I don't really see it coming down that much in one day. Tomorrow is very hard to predict because it depends on the data. I told you guys both the bullish and bearish possibilities, so make sure you're prepared for either one. My guess, my 2 cents would be we might gap down a little bit into open. We might see Tesla maybe slow down as the day goes on. Then we're going to try to get a relief bounce and we're going to try to retest this 214 area. The market might try to rally because of the market makers once again manipulating the prices and trying to trick a lot of people. And we might get a fake break above this 220 area. Um, and then what could end up happening is it's kind of like a fake out rally, just like what happened during CPI. And we come all the way back down and we end up just trading pretty much sideways and we start bleeding a little bit as the day goes on. And Tesla might have a somewhat red day, somewhere between this 209 to 214 area. We might be a little bit red for the day. And I do believe that the bears might try to fight a little bit harder based on what we're seeing so far. And also because of the fact that Tesla is not basically breaking out of 215 immediately. There are some bears right here trying to attack it and slow it down. All right, so I hope that's very clear. Basically, expect lots of volatility. Expect Tesla to push up, come right back down to this zone down here, come right back up, lots of volatility, and maybe a somewhat red close. That's just my 2 cents. I don't know for sure, but that's what I'd be predicting. And I just want you to know that right? It's a very hard day to predict because of PPI and initial jobless claims. That's going to really affect how the market moves. And also, it's going to be used as an excuse by the market makers. So, I want to thank you all so much for listening. Please have an absolutely incredible rest of the day. And please be ready for tomorrow. It's going to be crazy. Expect lots of volatility. And please be prepared for both a bullish and bearish possibility. Be prepared for anything tomorrow. It's going to be wild. Thank you. Have a great day, guys. Tesla to the moon because the long term future is still incredibly bright. And peace out.